This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Attention Ditto Heads. Attention Bo Scouts.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
It's time for the Soul of Excellence.
He is a radio host here in New York.
The Rush Hour is on the air.
Rush.
Now here's James Golden.
We have continued to go after the worst of the worst. The men and women of ICE are working actively in the state of California, and this is one of those cases where we were able to identify employers that are continuing to employ illegal aliens, just like this marijuana factory. Once we dove into the intel that we had, we realized that there could be some cases of some unaccompanied minors, which we all know that over 500,000 unaccompanied minors came across the border thanks to Joe Biden's open border policies. And so we're working every day to get those unaccompanied minors back and find them a home in a safe community that they can go to. And our officers were actually able to also uncover almost 360 illegal aliens working at this site.
Yes, my friends, and the ranting and the raving and the hysteria over immigration law enforcement continues, not just on the left coast, but on the right coast as well. In Florida, Democrats still whining, moaning, and telling all sorts of stories about what's happening at Alligator Alcatraz, but both Democrats and Republicans viewed it, and they come out with two different stories. And how can that be, my friends? How can that be? They both see the same things, yet the reports are incredibly wild. Among the people that the Democrats sent in to do their propaganda work, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, affectionately known during the rush years as Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz, was one of the ones that is making incredible claims about what is happening in Alligator Alcatraz. Meanwhile, Joe Biden spoke to the New York Times about 10 minutes, long story out of that, about the auto pins. Joe Biden says that every single decision that was made, he made it. And I don't know who actually is going to believe this. Toward the end of his first term as as president, Biden reduced the sentences of nearly 4,000 federal convicts, and then preemptively pardoned, of course, dozens of people in the Democrat Party. He's now, according to the New York Times, escalating his battle against Republicans' claims that he might not have been in control of high-profile clemency decisions. He said he had orally granted all of the pardons and commutations listed at the end of his term. He's calling the Republicans liars for claiming his aides had used an auto pen without his authorization. I made every decision. What would we expect him to say? He said he asked his staff to use an auto pen replicating his signature on the clemency warrants because we're talking about a whole lot of people. Yes, we are. But how can anybody be sure, including him, that people just weren't put on the list? If it's such a whole lot of people, how did he verify that no one snuck another name or two amongst the thousands that were auto-pinned a clemency. And this issue is not over. He may think that this puts an end to it, but it raises more questions than it does provide answers. Long story today in the New York Times regarding this. Now, as I mentioned, and we started the top of the program with an audio bite from the ICE Deputy Director, Madison Sharon, who talked about the marijuana plantation. That plantation in California, the raid there, over 360 illegal aliens arrested at these two locations from the same company. There were two different plantations that these Democrat donors who run this marijuana operation had raids to. Over 360 illegal immigrants, including children that had been brought to these plantations. Let's check in with the assistant DHS director, spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin. She was on Fox, that's Cut 6, and she was talking about this very raid on the marijuana plantations in California, the rebellious state, the rebel state of California.
Investigations. A lot of viewers will remember last week at Prairie Land Detention Facility down in Texas, we saw similar attacks against ICE enforcement officers. Again, it was highly coordinated attacks. They were wearing gear and had rifles as well. This was 10 individuals. But I will say, in those California raids, particularly disturbing the number of politicians that came out and continue to villainize and attack and demonize our ICE law enforcement officers. At that particular operation, David, at those marijuana facilities, our ICE enforcement officers found 14 children, 10 who were unaccompanied. They were likely being exploited, potential slave or forced labor, potential child and human trafficking. So this is something that is incredibly disturbing. It goes far beyond politics. And not only were there 10 unaccompanied children at that marijuana facility, but we also apprehended 361 illegal aliens with heinous rap sheets that include kidnapping, child molestation, rape, serial burglary, hit and runs. These are no people who should not be in our communities illegally, much less around innocent children, David.
Tricia, it's Alicia Acuna. Continuing on this topic in particular, according to...
Pretty remarkable. Over 361 illegal immigrants. They raided and found some of these illegal immigrants with convictions for rape, kidnapping, child molestation, burglary, and yet you hear not one single elected Democrat that's standing up and saying, this is horrible. How in the world could we be supporting like this? Also, one question that I have is, when are the owners of this marijuana plantation going to be taken into custody? How can you possibly claim that you have hundreds, we're not talking about a random person that snuck through. How can you have close to 400 employees working in your marijuana plantation, working on the plantation, including children, and you as the owners, Democrat donors, not know a thing about it? How does this happen? There is a program of E-Verify. You are supposed to verify that your employees are in the United States legally. It is against the law to knowingly hire and have working for you illegal immigrants. And as a business owner, as a plantation owner, they should certainly be aware of the law. When will authorities actually haul these Democrat donor owners into custody and demand an accounting of how they were running that business? That loop needs to be closed. Stephen Miller, the much vilified Stephen Miller, was on with Mark Levin, a good friend Mark Levin, on Fox. This, my friends, is a little lengthy for an audio bite that we present here. It's over 2 minutes, slightly over 2 minutes. But I'm going to tell you something. This analysis is stunningly brilliant. So please, cut one, give this some attention, and let's follow through this brilliant analysis of not just what is happening with illegal immigration, but the Democrat Party's motive and history behind what we're seeing now from Stephen Miller.
The left has been trying to shove Marxism, socialism, and communism down the throats of the American people for generations now. They ultimately were not able to do this during the Cold War because the middle class revolted against communism and Marxism and social engineering. The left shifted their tactics. The Democratic Party shifted their tactics to use migration as a weapon to break down the middle class and to gain political power and control in this country. They used migration to destroy our public education system, to destroy our healthcare system, to destroy wages and working conditions for the middle class of this country, and in effect to destroy social and community cohesion. And then in that rubble, in that chaos, in that conflict, to then try to articulate the need for ever more government control, ever more government redistribution, ever more government power, and then to ultimately import voters to then support that agenda, to import voters who do not believe in limited government, who do not believe in the U.S. Constitution. And that is why you are seeing now this violent insurrectionist revolt by the Democrat Party against immigration and customs enforcement. You see video after video after video of Democrat shock troops in the streets hurling rocks at ICE officers and Border Patrol in their vehicles, firing projectiles at them, violently assaulting them, and yes, opening fire on them. Multiple assassination attempts against our brave and heroic ICE and Border Patrol agents, and barely a word of condemnation from the Democrat Party. In fact, the Democrat rhetoric calling our ICE officers, calling our Border Patrol Nazis and Gestapos and fascists, demanding as they do that ICE leave their communities, this nullificationist rhetoric, all of which inspires and incites these domestic terror attacks against law enforcement. So we really are at a hinge point here for the West, a fulcrum point.
This, my friends, is brilliant analysis. Why do the Democrats, and I've said on this program, when I also wrote the piece that I did on the new rebel states, the Democrats are using immigration, illegal immigration, to prop up their political power. And we see it at work. This, to them, represents electoral power. Through our apportionment system of government, the Democrats are able to hold on to more seats than they would have by allowing they don't even have to vote for this to happen, which in a way is also a boon to Democrats. They have the seats and they don't have to work for them. They don't actually have to go out and get seats by the merit of their political debate, by the merit of their political track record. The population swells in these blue cities, these blue states, these blue areas, just by the welcome wagon that they give to illegal immigration, and they're able to retain more seats. That is part of the reason that California is a blue state now. That is part of the reason that you look at states that were once solidly red, And now you have their legislative houses run by Democrats because of illegal immigration. It's stunning, and this is great analysis from Stephen Miller. We're going to take a quick break here, ladies and gentlemen, and the fastest hour in media will continue. James Golden, Bo Snerdley with you, the Monday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Felipe Wynn of the Spinners passed away on this day in 1984. Just a brilliant, brilliant performer, and that's Felipe, lead singer for the Spinners. Not in the beginning when they were the Detroit Spinners, but this is where the Spinners, produced by Tom Bell, produced by the Mighty Three, rose to their true round of fame. James Golden and Snerdley. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Rush.
This is the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Snerdley.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
So they essentially drink, they get their drinking water, and they brush their teeth where they poop in the same unit. They bragged that they went above standards, supposedly, and gave them a 3-foot privacy wall that stretches the length inside the 32 detainee cage, a 3-foot privacy wall that stretches the length of the 3 toilets.
That is Debbie Blabbermouth, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, complaining about conditions in Alligator Alcatraz. 1979, Donna Summer was at number 1 on this day with Bad Girls. The album also 5 weeks in the number 1 position. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, can you imagine this? Prisoners have to brush their teeth near where they poop. What does this woman think happens in jail cells? She's describing jail, my friends. This is what happens in jail. It's not a luxury hotel. Keep it right here, my friends. We're coming right back. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
Chicago Public Schools just announced it's laying off more than 1,400 school-based employees. This includes 432 teachers and 677 special ed classroom assistants. CPS says this is part of its annual workforce planning and budgeting process. Historically, the district says more than 80% of impacted employees have secured new positions within CPS prior to the start of the school year. It's not known if the current $734 million budget deficit will impact that rehiring process.
Yeah, lay off the teachers and fund the illegal immigrants. That's Chicago. Kevin, Tom Jones.
1989, Tom Jones loses a paternity suit, was ordered to pay $200 a week, big money, and the judge was Judge Judy Scheinlin before her fame.
Judge Judy!
Not the person you want to be up against in a courtroom.
Ha! So Tom Jones had to give it up. $200 a week in child support. These days, that's just like, meh.
That's nothing.
Right, compared
on
to
streaming subscriptions now. It's $200 for Netflix a week, I think.
Hey, by the way, Kevin, do you have any big plans? Kevin, ladies and gentlemen, is our program director. He's filling in today for unknown reasons. But, Kevin, do we have any plans to cover the big announcement when P. Did It is finally sentenced? Are we going to...
Oh, absolutely. We'll be all over it.
Well, all over it, you say?
Not like that.
No. No baby oil parties. No. All right. Okay, my friends, Princess Diana sent me a few news stories. And this is what we talked about, the Biden auto pin earlier. And she says, strangely, with all the new coverage of the auto pin gate, few people are remembering the specific horrible pics who was actually pardoned by Joe Biden or given a get-out-of-jail-free card. One story is Governor Glenn Youngkin's clemency for the killers of a Virginia police officer. He let those killers out of jail. Another one that got big headlines at the time, and this case has been going on, many of you remember it, the Indian Native American activist Leonard Peltier, who was involved, 80 years old. He's been in jail for 50 years, convicted of the murder of 2 FBI agents on the Pine Ridge Reservation back in 1975. He escaped federal prison 1979 while serving his sentence for the 2 murders. 5 years tacked on to the sentence. He was a prominent Native American activist before his arrest. This has been one the liberals have wanted to see him freed ever since he was sentenced. Joe Biden took care of them. Then there was the other guy, Michael Conahan, who used his position as a judge to jail almost 2,300 kids. He accepted $2.8 million. It was the so-called, it was like a pay for kids for cash scandal is what it was. $2.8 million in illegal payments in exchange for sending more than 2,300 children, including some as young as 8 years old, to private juvenile detention centers. Biden let him off. That was another one. So wondering what is going to happen with this auto pen deal. I think Biden thought he was going to tamp it down with this one. I think he raises more questions than not. How was the auto pen so-called authorizations? How was that secured? How was it vetted? And then 14 Education Department employees are going to have to someone said they have to learn how to code. No, the Education Department, Supreme Court said, yes, go ahead and revamp the Education Department. That's going to mean layoffs there. Liberals very disappointed over the weekend with the reorganization of the State Department, which is already taking place as well. Before the break, you heard from Debbie Wasserman Schultz complaining, moaning that prisoners, actually detainees at Alligator Alcatraz, have to poop and brush their teeth in close proximity. Their sinks are apparently in close proximity to the commodes. What she's describing is jail. I don't know whether she's intelligent enough to know that in jail cells, which are very confined spaces, prisoners have, in some cases, the sink is above the commode. And that they have to do that. She would be maybe surprised to learn that in jails, people use the commode in some cases she would probably be very upset about this, to do all sorts of things like wash things in that they wear. And so she's complaining that somehow or another, I guess these are untenable degradations that prisoners have to go through, or the detainees have to go through at Alligator Alcatraz. She might be pleased to know, though, that the Washington Post is reporting that the courts have ruled in favor of the administration's plan to deport illegal aliens to third-party nations with as little as 6 hours notice. They could be picked up in some cases, and 6 hours later, in terms of exigent circumstances, find themselves on a plane to a third party. That way, I guess they won't have to be detained for long periods of time at Alligator Alcatraz. That should please Debbie Wasserman Schultz to no end. She's not the only one complaining about it. Maxwell Frost, that's cut 11, was down at Alligator Alcatraz, and he gave us his sob story.
They opened the door. There was about 6 security guards standing there kind of pushing us back, but we could see in and we could hear everybody. And when those doors opened, what I saw made my heart sink. I saw 32 people per cage, about 6 cages in the one tent. I saw a lot of people, young men who looked like me and people who were my age. People were yelling, "Help me, help me." I heard in the back someone say, "I'm a U.S. citizen." And as we were walking away, they started chanting, "Libertad, libertad, libertad, freedom." And looking into these cages, you could see, of course, it was warm and hot within the tent. People were sweating. Some people had taken off the top of their clothing because it was just so hot. Some of them were drenched in sweat. The food we saw is not enough food. They're being fed essentially a small sandwich and a bag of chips. And not just that, but the conditions outside, of course, it's blazing hot. And the fact that the cage comes from the toilet, number one, not everyone's going to be able to drink as much water as they'd like to because of that inconvenience, but also it's gross and it's disgusting, and this is where people are being held.
Okay, so that's sob story number 2. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, was asked about it. Cut 10, this is how he responded to some of the complaints coming from the Democrat Party members having visited Alligator Alcatraz.
These are people, did you see the background on some of those people, on some of those detainees? You see the horrific crimes some of them have done?
But they're still saying there's a lack of water, there's a lack
of... No. Oh, no. They're complaining about, they're saying some of the porta-johns aren't properly certified. I mean, give me a break. First of all, what's the plumbing going to be like in their home country? What are the bugs going to be like in their home country? Give me a break on some of this stuff. So all they're doing is, but I think it's showing, are you believing... A lot of these are actually criminal aliens who've been convicted of crimes. You're going to believe that, or are you going to believe the folks that are there professionally doing all this stuff? But the reality is they're in the country illegally.
Period. Now, Blaise Ingoglia is a politician very well-known politician in Florida politics, in South Florida. He's very well-known statewide. Blaise also took the walkthrough. He made a post on X, and I printed it out. Blaise Ingoglia. Just finished my walkthrough of Alligator Alcatraz. Here's what I saw. The rhetoric coming from Democrats does not match the reality. The place is well run, safe, secure, clean, and air-conditioned. We reviewed the intake area, medical tent, mess hall, recreation areas, and sleeping quarters. I actually laid down in one of the beds, and it was really comfortable. So, any complaints about squalor conditions is nothing more than that word, and political theater. And that is the Democrats, what they do, political theater. Mark Cuban, believe it or not, Trump hater Mark Cuban gave some advice to the Democrat Party, especially when it concerns their efforts toward illegal immigration And this is what, Mark Cuban, not a fan of Donald Trump in the least. We'll play as much of it as we can because I also want to get some other things in. Here's Mark Cuban.
They should be putting Tom Homan on blast, saying, okay, the FBI has their top 10 most wanted list, right? Let's just get this right. Homan, don't, do it right. List the top 100. Go after them. List the top 1,000, criminals that are here that need to be deported. We'll all help you. But the Democrats would never say something to the effect, we'll help you. They only have to do something that's the antithesis of what Trump says and does. You've never heard a Democrat say in the past 7 months, yeah, okay, I don't like it, but this is a step in the right direction. We're going to help, because I think the better path is for the Democrats to bring attention to the bad things and the good things and say on the good things, we'll help you, right? Which they would never say, because that disarms. Whenever you're in a sales environment and you say something positive about your competition, it's disarming. Yeah, we're better, but these guys, that's not so bad. They're trying really hard. Okay, Tom Homan, we don't want criminals. If Venezuela and Colombia opened up their jails and sent all their worst criminals to us, we don't want them here either. If MS-13 has 170...
You got it. The point is he's calling out his own Democrat Party. There are two polls that are happening right now. Harry Enton, and I didn't get an audio from that poll, is saying that Clinton's... I'm sorry, why did I bring up Clinton? That was a mind something. That Trump's numbers on immigration are sinking. But there's other information here. A Harvard CAPS Harris poll released today found that only 4 in 10 respondents approved of the job the Democrat Party's doing. That's a drop from June, when 42%. So they're underwater. There's also a poll out on Trump's immigration policies. And guess what? Democrats, of course, are opposed. By and large, many of them are, not even all of them, but Republicans are mostly supporting him. So what does that tell you? And independents are supporting Donald Trump. So the Democrats are firmly the party of illegal immigration, and their polling reflects it. Donald Trump doesn't have anything to worry about, in my view, with the polling on this. Oh, goodness, I didn't mention Epstein, no, because there are polls about that, too. And this whole Epstein thing, not going to spend any time with it today because there's no real news to report. The president was asked about Bongino. He said, hey, Bongino, he talked to him. Bongino is okay. Everything's in a good place. So we'll see. There are other stories about how Republicans are demanding the truth. The Epstein stuff is not going to be what defines this presidency. Now, very quickly, there are other things going on. I want you to hear something, cut 17. This is a state assemblyman from California, David Tangipa. Now, listen, folks, they have been doing nothing but hammering supposedly Republicans, on Medicaid. And most of what Democrats have been saying, not true. I want you to hear this state assemblyman from California about Governor Newsom.
We've got to talk about these proposed cuts to Medi-Cal. Under Governor Gavin Newsom, he is proposing a 43% cut to dental services. This will end up paying our dentists less than minimum wage for services and preventative care. Another cut that Governor Newsom is proposing as well is a 60% cut to Medi-Cal services for disabled children. We've got an infinite number of problems in this state, but we have a finite amount of resources. And if we need to pick and choose in this state, I choose the kids of California, and I choose a lot of the essential services that those families need right now. So we need you to reach out to our office, send us an email, tell us about your story on how...
Thank you. Governor Newsom proposing cuts to disabled children. And dental services for poor people. That's not Donald Trump, folks. That's not the Republicans. The Republicans are saying what they want to do with the corruption and the waste in Medicaid. What Gavin Newsom is doing is actually a real horror story. That have you seen that anywhere in the national headlines? I ask you. Lily Bonnick's here. Very quickly, cut 18. John Barrasso, senator from Wyoming, was asked about he was on PMSNBC of all places and asked about Medicaid. This is what he said.
So, look, I'm a doctor, practiced in Wyoming, rural and frontier medicine. In this bill, there's $50 billion set aside for rural hospitals to make sure that they can stay no longer in jeopardy, but give them the security that they need. Medicaid has become a magnet for waste, for fraud, for abuse, and even corruption. And during the votes on this bill, the Democrats said, nope, keep sending Medicaid to illegal immigrants. There are 1.2 million illegal immigrants on Medicaid right now. American people reject that. We have over 5 million people sitting at home who are able to work, who are on Medicaid and choose not to work.
Yeah.
Republicans believe there should be work requirements. Democrats voted nope, not even modest work requirements. If the Democrats were still in charge, everyone's taxes would be going up and we'd be less safe and less secure as a nation.
All right, my friends, the fastest hour in media will continue. James Golden here, Bo Snerdley with you. Monday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Whatever you do, keep it right here. Do not go away. We've got a few minutes left. I want to try to squeeze a few more things in here, so don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's the Rush Hour with James Golden.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
Rush.
Now here's James Golden.
Trump has cut my food stamps from $2,800 down to $350. Now, what am I supposed to do? So I literally just got this piece of mail today saying that due to new policy changes from the Trump administration, all this shit, whatever, that all these cuts and whatever he's doing over there, now they're telling me I have to go work. Now I have to go do all this. Well, I literally got 5 kids. Okay, I'm trying to sit here and spend time with them. I'm not trying to go work, 50, 60 hours a week so I can pay bills. I'm not trying to work. I voted for him this last election because I thought he had good was going on, but now all of a sudden, all this policy stuff's coming out, and now he's making all these cuts, and now he doesn't want to help the less fortunate people no more.
He doesn't want to help the less fortunate.
I'm done with that guy. I'm done with that guy.
I'm done with him. I got 5 kids. I did it by myself too.
Literally, if he gets voted in again, I'm leaving this country.
You leaving the country? You don't even want to get a job. If he gets voted in again for a 3rd term, we got to go, folks. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, always for you being here with me, allowing me to be with you. God willing, back tomorrow for the Tuesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.
The Rush Hour with James Golden
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.